Mayor, what's the state of the city during the pandemic?
Well, so far we've been in pretty good shape. Like a lot of communities, we've had increases in numbers, but ours have moved slowly, fortunately. I think that's partly because of a lot of good information going out to our citizens, and mostly because the citizens are responding to the ordinance, which required masks and practicing social distancing. So while our numbers are moving up just a little at a time, they're not going rapidly like in some other rural counties. So we're fortunate in that way, and I think it's starting to stabilize.
Okay, I see you got your mask in your hand there. How important is that mask, man, based on the information that you've gotten?
Well, to our understanding, the mask is one of the most important things that we can utilize as a tool. When we passed our ordinance, I noticed that in all the stores, all the retail places, the banks, everywhere you go, they want to make sure you have on your mask before you come in. And if you step in the door without it, they're going to remind you. Once or twice I've forgotten mine. By the time I got to the door, I went right back to my truck and got my mask. And so this is the most important thing that we can do to try to help prevent the spread of the coronavirus, is utilizing the mask. And that's scientifically proven, and we know because of our stability here and not having rapidly rising numbers that it's been effective in our community.
Okay, so what are you doing as outreach, you know, around the county and around the state or whatever, to make sure that we are getting the best information to our people?
Well, once a week, weekly, I meet with the Alabama Conference of Black Mayors, and we meet with the State Health Department, representative either from the director himself, Dr. Scott Harris, or either with Dr. McNair. And she talks with us about what's going on in our areas, particularly in the Black Belt communities, and things we need to do, what our numbers look like, what position we're in, how to get more testing. Then we meet with the university. We have a weekly call on coronavirus task force with the university and the community leaders, with the county, Board of Education, all represented, the Macon County Healthcare Authority. All of us represented together, along with citizens, to keep passing good information about what we can do, including the ministerial lines. So it's by getting this network of people communicating about what's available, what testing is available, who's providing masks, and the different things that we're doing that helps us to keep the numbers down and improves our possibility of minimizing the spread of this coronavirus.
Now, Mayor, we have some people that just love to party, and apparently they are not believers. What's your message to those people in our city and our county?
Well, fortunately, about 80 to 85% at least of our citizens are practicing social distancing and wearing masks on a regular basis. We have those smaller groups that get into parties and social gatherings and don't practice it. So we're trying to remind them the danger is not what you do. You could be asymptomatic. You could spread to someone else, but it's to your relatives who are vulnerable, the seniors or younger people or somebody who may have a special condition. They don't even have to be that old. If they have a compromised health condition, they don't need to catch coronavirus. And it could be very deadly for them. It could be dangerous for them and almost deadly. So we want to remind those who are gathering, not practicing social distancing or wearing the mask, you can pose a threat to other people. You may not intentionally do it, but just by your behavior, that can cause others to be vulnerable to the coronavirus. And what we want to do is make sure we do everything to prevent any kind of spread of this disease, so we can eliminate these numbers and get back to what we see as basically normal, where we can do what we want to do. But we first got to get rid of the spread of the virus.
You know, those few people are hard-headed and, you know, not supportive, but there are ordinances and governmental rules that govern what you ought to be doing, aren't there?
Yes, we have a mask ordinance. The governor passed it from the state level, and it goes on for certain periods of time and they have to be renewed. We passed ours permanently until we repeal it. Until we see the conditions have improved enough to where we don't have to wear masks, it is a requirement in the city of Tuskegee. Anywhere you go in the city of Tuskegee, if you're outside of your home and outside of being with your immediate family or circle of family members, then you're supposed to be wearing a mask and staying at least 6 feet. I try to suggest people get 8 feet back like I am with you, so you can be safe when you have your mask off. So 8 feet, 6 to 8 feet distance, and wearing your mask when you're in any group.
Okay, sir, I do appreciate you.
Well, we thank you, and thank you for sharing the information with our citizens. We thank our citizens of a vast majority who practice social distancing, who wear their masks, and who try to help others stay safe. So we want to tell everyone, be safe, be blessed, and we look forward to getting past this coronavirus pandemic.
Hey there, Judge. I see you got your mask in your hand, but we're going to remove it for just a minute here to get this information. Man, what's the state of the county at this point as far as your role is concerned?
Well, as far as my role is concerned, Chief, right now we're very busy preparing for November 3rd presidential election. Part of that preparation is getting the word out about the last day to vote, which is October 19th. Also, just as important as that is the last day to apply for an absentee ballot application, which is October 29th. So those two dates are very critical. So it's important that our citizens who are going to register to vote to do it well in advance of October 19th, and those who are going to apply for absentee ballot application to do it now by going to the 3rd floor of the courthouse to see Mr. David Love if you're comfortable coming in and doing your application and voting on site at that moment. So he's going to allow people to vote on site. That's perfectly legal and within the law. Also for our citizens, just as important as that, those who want to come to the polls on November 3rd, we're making all the preparations by cleaning the poll sites, sanitizing the poll sites by a professional cleaning company that's a local-based company to clean the sites and sanitize them before the election. After the election, they will come back and clean them again so we can leave the facilities better than the way that we found them, hopefully. With that, we will have masks for those citizens who want to vote on site. We will have hand sanitizer that citizens can use, gloves for our poll workers, masks for our poll workers, face shields for our poll workers, tabletop shields for our poll workers, and signage to keep people distanced. So we will have all of that. On top of that, we will also just have people monitoring and making sure that our people do not gather in large groups or clump together as they come to the polling sites. So all those things are done to ensure the safety of our workers, particularly our workers who are, most of them are over the age of 70, and also our citizens who are coming in. Because this is a very critical election, we're also recruiting new poll workers that are what I would call young people, anyone who's less than 55, to be poll workers. So we're actively working on that now to recruit new poll workers to work in our polls, not only for this election, but also again for 2022. That's very important as we prepare for the future. We always have to look ahead to think about the next election and the election beyond that in 2024. There's no time like now to prepare for it. So in closing, I would encourage our citizens to register to vote, those who are not registered, by October 19th, and those who are going to do absentee ballot. The deadline is October 29th, but don't wait till then. And also, I want to say this. We have a great number of people registered to vote. It's on each of us, responsibility-wise, to the ones that are registered, to re-engage them to go to the polls this time to vote, but also to take 3 people with them. It's also important that they understand the issues and to educate them on the issues, particularly the special amendment that's on the back about our school tax. We have come up to our 30-year expiration of that school tax, so we need it renewed for another 30 years. It's a no-harm tax because we've already been paying it all this time. So we're just asking for a renewal for our schools. It would mean millions of dollars for our schools. So with that, I just thank you so much, citizens of Macon County, and please don't forget to go to the polls on November 3rd. Thank you.
Now tell me this, Judge, do you have update training for the new poll workers that you are recruiting?
We will be doing, that's a very good question. We will be doing 3 sets of training. We will break the groups into smaller numbers, and all the poll workers, including the new ones as well as the returning ones, will have to be trained, because we want to make sure that no voter is denied the right to vote. If their names are not on the voter registration list, they can vote provisionally. So we want to make sure our poll workers are up to speed on that they are not afraid of that process. So we will do training, which is required by law to do training X days before the general election. We will also publish the list of voters in the newspaper for those people who take the Tuskegee News.
Now, Judge, you were explaining to people plain and clear that you have to be registered to vote. And in order to vote, you have to show up. Now, should all of this rhetoric around the country confuse people about what their civic responsibility is?
It should not confuse our citizens. If anything, it should re-engage and activate our citizens to go out and vote, because every person has a right to vote that's registered. Even if you think you're not registered at this point, you have an obligation to go to the Secretary of State's website and determine if you're registered, just to be sure. So that's sos.alabama.gov. You click on elections, and then you can go from there to determine if you're registered to vote, as well as where you're supposed to vote. With all the rhetoric in the country that's going on about mail-in, balloting, and all of that, in this county, we shouldn't have that issue, because if we were to mail our ballots, we would place those ballots in the local mailbox, and they would not go to Montgomery and have to come back. They would just be delivered the next day to the circuit clerk's office, which is the absentee ballot elections manager as well. So we should be really energized knowing that, because we are such a small community, we know our local officials, and all of us are willing and ready to help in any way we can to answer any questions our citizens may have. If they have questions for me, my phone number is 334-724-2611. And believe me, they just call and we will reach out and help in any way that we can.
Judge, the dollar talk confuses lots of our people. You hear people talking about millions of dollars raised here and billions of dollars raised there. That causes some of our people to think that it won't do any good for them to try to register and vote, because somebody is going to have more money than somebody else. Isn't it a fact that when the president votes, his vote counts one, and when the citizen on the street vote, their vote counts one? Isn't that equalization of power?
Absolutely. It has the amount of money one has, or the position that one holds in life, only guarantees them, if they're registered to vote, one vote. They get one vote just like everyone else. That's all that it is. Like I have one mother, I have one father, and that's all that I get. Every citizen who's registered has one vote during that election. No more, no less.
I love that analogy. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
What's going on out here, Chairman?
Well, this is a part of what we call Census Saturday in Macon County. And what we're doing out here, we're really out here having a fish fry, trying to motivate people to come out. We've been on Facebook trying to vote, and people have come down. I don't know how many they signed up today. I didn't get a chance to talk with Roberta Watson, who was handling that, but I certainly appreciate them coming out. But the idea was to try to get Macon County motivated for our census, because we got to do it. We've got signs out all over Macon County, so we want everybody thinking census today. That's been our objective, try to get people thinking census. Understand that we're at 50.9 and Pike County's at 50.8, so we've got to move. That's too close. We got to move it on up there, and we can do it, and I think we will do it, because we'll have a big push. We got people working the communities out there. We've got somebody going through the Howard Rose units and Brown Street. We just got people all over, so we're hoping to have a pretty good jump this weekend in the numbers. So everybody seems to be excited, and we just thankful for that.
What were the citizens able to do here today? Just to get motivated, or were they able to sign up?
They could sign up for the census, and like I said, I don't know how many signed up yet because I didn't get a chance to talk. But we were able to get individuals signed up to share information as to how people get signed up. A couple of people said that they didn't have time, but we begged. We got their number, so we're going to check back with them to make sure that they did. If they didn't, we're going to try to get them. Let us do it over the phone with them. So the idea is to just get people motivated and start thinking census, because we're running out of time. And the deadline is right up on us, and we're going to make sure but we're going to win. We're going to come do our thing in here in Macon County.
Let me ask you to be critical, and I want this to be constructively critical. Why is it that we have to beg people to do what is best for them in so many cases?
Well, I think sometimes it's just a lack of education. I think we have to do a better job of educating our people, and again, we live in a community that has a stigma in terms of when anything dealing with the federal government, there's a stigma. Go back to the syphilis study, and it's unfortunate. But those of us, we got to do a better job of educating our people to understand what's going on. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of times people just don't understand, and then other time people just become complacent. And I say I don't think COVID did a bad job. COVID didn't help us this time, but I don't blame it on COVID. But I think it's just sometimes people just get complacent and don't understand the actual importance of it, how it fits into the mainstream of it. So that's what I think those of us leaders got to do a better job of educating our people,
And
understand how it fits into the total picture.
And this census count will determine a lot of things that will impact our quality of life, right?
Of course it will. It will impact our Alabama stand to lose a congressional district if we don't get the numbers up. It affects our commissioner's district. It affects the city's district. It affects the amount of money that we get in through grant money, the amount of resources we get to help to do our roads and bridges, health care. All of these things are tied back to the census. And I think that's what we've got to do a better job of letting people understand. It's not a matter of just filling out a form. It's a matter of putting something in place for the next 10 years for your community. And it's very crucial. 10 years is a long time to say that, oh, I wish I had filled it out. You got to wait 10. If you don't fill it out this time, you got to wait 10 years to try to correct what you did. And that's a long time. That's a time you may not even be here at that time. So we got to think about the future of our community, whether we're here or not, for the future of our children and our grandchildren.
Okay, sir. Any other words you want to get to the people?
Well, I just want to, first of all, thank those who have filled out the census. If you know somebody who has not filled out the census, don't be afraid to call them. Assume that your neighbor hadn't filled out the census. Call them and ask them had to fill out the census. Take your street. Take time, go down your own street. Knock on your door to your neighbors on your street. If you just do your street and say, have you filled out your census? If you need some help, I'll help you. If you can't help them, they can call 724-2575 and somebody will help them fill out their census. So there's no excuse. But we need everybody to act as a committee of one and call your sister, your brother, your mother, mom and dad. If they live in a separate household, don't assume that they have filled out their census. Go and ask them. And if you haven't, we need you right now, better more than ever. Thank you very much.